Hello everyone, we have a review for you today of this guy. This is the Suaoki G500 portable power station. Basically it's a giant lithium-ion battery with a bunch of ports and outlets in the front of it. And we'll talk a little bit more about all those things in a minute here. This was given to me by Suaoki to review for free, but as you'll see in this review, that doesn't really color my opinion of a product. There are several companies that make this kind of thing in addition to Suaoki. There's Jackery and Goal Zero and Anchor, and so I've had a little bit of experience with some of those in the past, and I'll also be comparing specifically one of those to this in this review. I've been using it on the road for a few months now on probably half a dozen short car camping trips, and so my review is based on that and based off of using it as a power station based out of my little SUV RV here. So this thing has a 500 watt hour capacity, and put another way, 137,700 milliamp hours. There are 3 ways to charge this device, and these are the input ports right here. This one on the left, this little round one, is for charging it via the wall or via your car. So it comes with a wall outlet charger thing, and then this is the car charger. So this goes right in here, and of course this end goes into the cigarette lighter in your car. This one here, you can see it says PV, that stands for photovoltaic, which is the solar panel input. That is an Anderson power pole, or APP connector right there. That Anderson power pole connector is not super common in these kinds of devices, but it's also not some super obscure port. Like, Suaoki didn't invent it. It's a standard port, and you can find accessories to fit that. And so, like I said, that's for the solar input. The upside here for us is that Suaoki does include an adapter to go from an MC4 cable, which is the standard connector, I guess connector, not cable, to the APP, the Anderson power pole connector. Basically, MC4 is the standard connector that comes off of solar panels, and this power station comes with a cable to go from that MC4 connector to right into the power station here. That's something that most of these power stations do not have or do not come with. And then going back to the ports here, we have 2 wall outlets. You can see it says 110 volts, 2.7 amps, 300 watts max. So this is a 300 watt inverter here. It does go up to 600 watts surge, which means that like right when you turn on an item that you have plugged in here, it might spike up to higher than 300. And if it's below 600, then it's okay, as long as it stays generally below 300. And then over here we have 3 USB ports. There's the 1 USB-C, and then the 2 USB-A ports below that. Here we have 2 5.5 millimeter by, I think, 2.1 millimeter ports. You can use these for a few different things. I'll show you one thing that I have for that in a minute here. I don't find these super helpful on any of these devices, but you might. And then of course we have the 12 volt socket, the so-called cigarette lighter socket, and that basically rounds out the inputs and outputs we have on here. The screen, if you turn it on for a couple seconds, hold the button for a couple seconds, you can see the screen here. It has input and output, and the output is in both DC and AC. It shows you the separate ones. So if you're running something off of this, it'll show you the AC, and if you're running something off of these, it'll show you the DC output. Here's what I use to plug into one of those 5.5 millimeter outlets. This is just a little 12 volt socket adapter, and inside of it I've put a 12 volt to USB adapter. So you can plug this in like that, and then you can use either your USB, or if we remove this thing, you can use it as another 12 volt cigarette lighter type socket. This did not come with it. I bought this. This is an aftermarket thing, but it just shows you the kind of thing that you can do with that kind of outlet. And the battery here is measured rather than in percent in this bar here, and each one of those bars within the battery represents 20% of battery life. So let's talk about the pros and cons of this thing, and we'll start with the pros. First pro, it works. It does what it says it'll do. It's a big battery and you can run stuff off of it. You can run a CPAP machine, you can run a heated blanket. Of course, you can charge all of your USB devices. Anything that requires less than 300 watts, anything that draws less than 300 watts, you can power with this device. On my trips, I've been using it largely to power my 12-volt compressor fridge, and it's been doing that without any problems. Another pro is that it does come with that connector, that cable to go from the MC4, which again is the standard coming out from solar panels, to the Anderson power pole. And a lot of times you'll have to buy this kind of thing separately for $15 or $20 on Amazon, but I'm glad that it comes with that connector. Another pro is USB-C. If you need USB-C, it's handy to have that little port on there. I like that it has the 210 volt wall outlets. That's something that not all of these portable power stations have. A lot of them just have one. And then on the screen, like I showed you, I like that it has the separate readouts for the AC and DC outputs. So you can see how much the device is putting out through each of those. I like that. And now let's go to the cons. Unfortunately, I think that the cons outweigh the pros on this device. There's a few things that are kind of annoying, and then a couple things that are basically deal breakers for me. So one of the things that's kind of annoying is that the readout doesn't register when you plug in very low draw devices. So I have little USB fans that on their low setting draw like 2 or 3 watts. It doesn't even register on the screen there. It just says 0 watts for the output. It runs the devices, but it doesn't say that power is being drawn, which I think is a problem. Another downside for me is that it has that one little USB-C port. I'd rather have a regular USB type A port, the bigger one. I'd rather have 3 of those instead of 2, and I'd prefer to have no USB-C. But that's basically personal preference. I don't have any devices that have that need that USB-C port, and so your mileage may vary on that one. Another downside is that the 300 watt rating on the inverter on this device is relatively low. I think most other products like this have 400 or 500 watt ratings on their inverters, and so you need to take a look at your devices and see how much they draw to see if you need that extra 100 or 200 watts. Those are the little things. Now we get to the main things that I don't like about this device. One of them is that battery meter on the screen. I don't like the little bars. I wish it had a percentage. The bars just don't really give me meaningful information. So for example, when I've done reviews on products like this in the past, I can plug a device into it like a fan, or like, you know, if I'm charging batteries for my drone or something like that. I can see, okay, when I plug it in, the battery's at 97%. Once it's done charging, it's at 85%. And so I can say, okay, it used 12% of the battery during that charge cycle. With this, you can't do that. And so I never really know how much battery is left. I find that pretty frustrating. I don't know why they did it that way. I kind of hate it. I kind of hate the battery bar readout. But the main thing I dislike about this device, and the main drawback for me, and I think the main drawback for a lot of people watching this, is that it charges extremely slowly via the car. Via solar, it charges fine. Via a wall outlet, it charges fine. But via 12 volts in the car, it's super slow. You basically can't charge it up all the way with your car. For comparison, the Suaoki G500 power station that I have, that I'll show you in a minute here, it charges 4 or 5 times faster. In fact, we'll find out the exact numbers here in a second. But for me, being someone who wants a device like this for use in my car when I'm on multi-day trips to run things like my fridge, if the car can't recharge it, like on a day when it's cloudy, that's just a deal breaker for me. That doesn't work for me. If you're just charging it up before a trip and you don't really have plans to charge it up while you're on a trip, then fine, that's not a problem. It'll last you a few days without a problem. But if you are going to be out longer and if you do want to charge it with your car, this is not the device for you. All right, so I have here the Suaoki G500. It's charging right now from the 12 volt socket in my car. The input here, it's been between like 6 and 12 watts. Okay, not great. Let's unplug it and plug it back in, see if that changes anything. Okay, it's down to 0. We plug it back in. And we're at 7, 8. Okay, let's unplug this and plug it back in. Six, 7 watts. Okay, not very much. Now let's do the same thing with the Jackery Explorer 500. So let's unplug the Suaoki, plug in the Jackery, and if it'll focus, 42 watts. So this is at 42. This was at 6. I mean, that is several times faster. So basically what that means is that this will charge, what, 7 times faster than this from the car? And to me, that's just, I mean, that's unacceptable. I don't know why this is so slow. If you have a 24-volt outlet in your car, then apparently you can charge the Suaoki faster, but I don't have that in my car. My wife doesn't have that in her car. I don't know how common that is. But we're still at 42 watts up here. Let's try the G500 one more time. Give the Suaoki one last chance to redeem itself. 6 watts. 6 here, 42 here. And this is the little instruction booklet that came with the Suaoki. It even says in here, let's see if I can show this to you, the note right here. Car cigarette socket of 12-volt vehicle can't charge the portable power supply fully, but the 24-volt vehicle can. And while I was reading this to you, this went to 0. And I've had this happen a couple times, like this just stops charging for some reason. I don't know, because we'll have to unplug it and plug it back in, but that's not great. Yeah, there we are going back up again. And so in summary, while a product like this might work for you, it can charge what you need to charge, it can run what you need to run. It's the details that make this something that I don't think I would recommend to most people. I think that for the price, there are better options out there. I think that Suaoki is going to give me a discount code if you are interested in buying this. I'll put that on the screen here and in the description below, and some links and everything like that. I don't get any kind of kickback from that. That's just for Suaoki's benefit. But yeah, hope you found this review helpful, and let me know if you have other questions. I think that for your money, something like the Jackery Explorer 500, which, disclaimer, I also got for free, and I've also reviewed on the channel here, I think that's a better device. I would rather spend my money on something like that than this product. So let me know if you guys have questions, and I'll see you in the next one.